Welcome to the Kentucky Bourbon Traveler. Today we're going to Beam's Rickhouse fireside and see the cleanup efforts there. We're also going to be profiling OCD number 5 Premium, a rare new small batch bourbon. We're also going to be having a recipe for bourbon caramel ice cream. You can make it home without even an ice cream maker. Hi, welcome back to Louisville, Kentucky. I'm Kent. Today we're going to Versailles, Kentucky to see the cleanup from the recent Beam Rickhouse fire. 45,000 barrels burned, which is 5 times more bourbon than fell out of the Rickhouse in the recent Barton Rickhouse collapse. Firefighters were able to contain the fire to just one rickhouse, but the water they used created burning rivers of bourbon into the storm drains that eventually went into Glens Creek. We're told a bolt of lightning missed the numerous lightning rods, just like this one that's on the stack of the Old Crow distillery next door, and hit the flat roof of the rickhouse which started the fire in the first place. The burning roof collapsed on the sprinkler system inside the rickhouse that's designed to put the fire out and ignited exploding angel share vapors and barrels. The 4 county country fire crews put out the resulting fires on the outside of the other rickhouses and protected them, luckily, while the fire burned and a lot of the bourbon burned off. It turned so hot it melted the plastic headlights on the fire trucks and blew out windows with the heat and flying barrel shrapnel. So hot you could see it from Frankfurt, the capital, and so powerful it burned those trees across the waterway. Here you can see the boarded up windows on a rickhouse. This fire burned so hot a neighbor's siding was even damaged. Here's what's left of the site after they allowed as much bourbon as possible to burn away instead of going into the creek or the groundwater. These are barrel hoops and hardware fittings filling up the area where the rickhouse used to be. It's a deep basement kind of pool designed to catch the spills of bourbon. The buildings all say Old Crow, in case you're wondering, since in 1985 Jim Beam purchased Old Crow, shut down the distillery, but used the newer 1950s rickhouses involved in this fire for aging bourbon. Beam Centauri did everything they could, immediately sending cleanup crews, but the water necessary to keep the other rickhouses from exploding carried the bourbon into the creek through the storm drains and created a burning lake, threatening even more high-proof buildings like these two between Glens Creek's next door neighbor and the blazing rickhouses. Next door, just downriver, Dave Myers of Glens Creek Distillery, since 2014 has been capturing yeast from Old Crow's fermenting tanks at the old distillery and using the Glens Creek water to resurrect old-style barrel-proof bourbons, much like Old Crow made since the 1800s. Since Glens Creek Distillery's Old Crow Distillery shares the creek water, Dave's antique water storage areas have been pumped out and cleaned extensively to try and combat the concentration of bourbon that flowed in, contaminating his water. Crews have been treating the creek water, which we were told was tested running at around 10 proof, about the alcohol content of a weak wine. Beam cleanup crews staged equipment at Glens Creek Distillery after the fire too, and deployed aerators, which you can see here shoot the river water up in the air to put oxygen into the river water to help clean it out naturally and oxygenate it. This is Glens Creek before the spill in April 2019, just off of Old Crow's pump house. And here's what Glens Creek looks like in August 2019 with a new mold on the rocks. And the creek also has a foul egg smell that wasn't there just a few months earlier in April. Bourbon's flowed out of Glens Creek to the Kentucky River along with dead fish and a plume of bourbon miles long. Locals in the county report a strange taste in the water that will likely be there for a long time, as Kentucky's land is like a sponge with limestone caves and rivers. We sat down with David Meyer.
The bits and pieces of 10 to 15 different barrels when we bottle, and there's a little bit, there's some that's left in the filter cartridges, there's some that's left in the barrel, and it's got a lot of char in it. It just has a richer flavor somehow. So we accumulate that, put it back in a barrel, leave it on the shelf to age longer. So it is all our OCD 5. It's just OCD 5 to another level.
It's fantastic sweet bourbon.
Yeah, it's very good.
I understand most people won't be able to get this in local wines anymore, though, correct?
It's only available here. The nature of the beast is we can only create about 2 barrels a year of it. As we bottle more, we'll be able to do more, but I don't see it ever going more than 3 or 4 barrels a year.
Glens Creek has introduced a new OCD premium bourbon at the distillery. It's an incredible small batch from about 12 barrels, which proved at tasting that the great things I expected to see from Glens Creek. There's about 12 cases so far. You won't find it at your local liquor store anytime soon. And it's a distillery exclusive. Limestone filtered water from the on-site Old Crow water was used, as in the OCD 5. Yeast grown by catching yeast spores from the abandoned Old Crow's sealed yeast fermenting tank. Number 5 is very similar and smells quite a bit like the old Y174 yeast used by Old Crow back in the day. Fermenting tank number 5 provided a yeast spore to use in their recipes. If you're fortunate enough to be close to Glens Creek, stop on by and try their new small batch OCD premium. This small batch is in barrel proof, so you know it's going to be some potent stuff. OCD premium is around 115 proof depending on the bottle. An overwhelming brown sugar toffee taste hits you with a finish that reminds me most of cinnamon rolls, sweet as sugar. OCD premium was produced in a 32-gallon hand-welded pot still on site.
Hi, my name is Christiane, originally from Würzburg, Germany, and today we're making a yummy caramel bourbon ice cream. So what you need is, the first ingredients, you can get it at the store, and it calls dolce de leche, and it's a caramelized based milk. Then we need heavy whipping cream and salted caramels, about 10 to 12. So the first you do, you take the dolce de leche, get it all in your bowl. Then you add the whipping cream. Now we're gonna mix everything together. So after we use the hand mixer, the consistency of this ice cream it's still runny, but it's kind of thick. Now we're gonna add our sea salt. I bought the caramels, cut them up in little squares. Mix it around a little bit so the caramels kind of get into the mixture. Then of course we're gonna add our bourbon of your choice. Stir it until the bourbon is mixed nicely in it, and it's also an ice cream you do not need an ice cream maker for, so it's non-churned. So after we mixed everything together, I have a small container for the freezer. I pour it in the container, seal it up, and then I'm going to freeze it for about 8 to 12 hours. And of course, every ice cream needs a topping, so as this freezes for about 8 to 12 hours, I chopped up some mixed nuts, and I'm pouring bourbon over it, and it's real juicy, but you put it in the refrigerator, and when the ice cream is ready, you got soaked chopped nuts with bourbon. Now, after we left our ice cream in the freezer, we have wonderful caramel bourbon ice cream with bourbon soaked nuts. Enjoy.
Kentucky bourbon traveler.